When big cannabis enters the frame, it's not about craft anymore. It's about scale. We've already seen this play out in the legal market. Small growers get squeezed out, not because they can't make great products. Most of them do. But it's simply because they cannot compete with the distribution, the compliance costs, and quite frankly, the volume that big cannabis can. See, federal legalization is going to lead to something that we jokingly call the Walmart weed paradox. Fewer unique strains, fewer local grows. And because of that, a lot of the weed that we will be able to purchase will not be crafted for its unique flavor profile. It's going to now be crafted for how long it can be shelf stable.
This is going to be mid. Yay! Legal weed.
Take a company like, for example. I bought from them in multiple different states. And the one thing that I can say is consistent is that their native flower that they grow is absolutely bottom shelf. It doesn't matter if you get it in New York, it doesn't matter if you get it in California, it doesn't matter if you get it in Arizona, it is the same no matter what. And I think that would be what would happen if we were to go federal and let the government completely control how the marijuana industry is regulated.
Wait, isn't this more of an issue with multi-state producers, not legalization?
They're one of the big issues, but they're not the biggest issue. The biggest issue is that when you take federal legalization and you put it into a scale model, all of a sudden your craft producers are being pushed out and they're no longer even being incentivized to grow anything because the economics just won't play out for it. It genuinely will be impossible to have those midnight dream type strains that you only hear of that one time you was in Colorado. You'll never see it again unless you know a guy that knows a guy. It wasn't the whole entire point of legalization to not have to know a guy to know a guy. Honestly, I'm not saying that I don't think that a lot of the big players shouldn't exist. That's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother video. Like and subscribe, and maybe we could talk about it. If we took legalization to a federal level, and all of a sudden to sell your product legally, the hoops that you have to jump through, which are already astronomical for most, become even further. Then we're not building equity. We're not building a system of craft product. We're building a system of mass product. The states' rights argument has never really been on the right side of history in the United States. If you know, you know. But I think when it comes to legalization, I think there is a benefit to having states run their own legalization processes. States have a tendency to experiment with laws. They're a lot more fluid with them. They're not afraid to take a law that fits for the people right there and actually tweak it a little bit to kind of make sure that it doesn't kind of overstand and overreach on people's freedoms and liberties. Look at the model now that's already enacted. And some of these states have prioritized different ways of going about legalization. Some have emphasized equity. Some have emphasized private growing. Some have emphasized, unfortunately, bringing big canna into the market. And again, I'm not saying that all the states get it right every time. Some states have really done horrible jobs of their legalization rollout. But some states have been the model for what we should follow if you are a state that has not legalized yet. Take, for example, Colorado. They use the revenue from cannabis to fund some of their schools. Illinois focused on social equity and expungement of records. Oregon did a really good job of investing in public health and education towards marijuana. And Massachusetts wrote their federal legalization to kind of help communities that were previously hurt by laws that were draconian and very predatory. See, this is what I mean by experimentation. These states were able to make legalization something that was targeted and express the priorities of the people that actually lived there. And I'm not saying that every state did it perfect. New York had an absolutely horrific rollout, and because of that, a lot of illicit shops were able to fill in the gap. New Jersey had a really slow rollout, and that caused a lot of shortages, which raised a lot of prices. And here goes a real anomaly. Oklahoma voters rejected recreational cannabis, but the medical market is almost indistinguishable. In fact, a lot of people just call it the Wild Wild West. And it is a super thriving, anything goes medical market out there. I say all this to say that states can stumble sometimes, but I'd rather have my state stumble and get it wrong than have the federal government get it wrong. Current system, while it's effective, there's chaos to it. Hopefully with the rescheduling from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, we can actually get something like guardrails.
Wait a minute, that was just an executive order. That didn't happen yet.
Some rules for safety, research access, and quite frankly for taxation purposes. Certainly not more. But let's find a legal way to have these tax dollars actually be effective in our government. See, my biggest fear in the federal legalization argument is that we'll have a corporate monoculture completely take over the cannabis culture.
So, what's the better way?
Cannabis doesn't need the federal government to run it. It needs the federal government to stop breaking it, and maybe to understand the science behind it. When the 2018 Farm Bill was enacted, we had the floodgates open of synthetic cannabinoids because these things were made legal because people that didn't understand the science were writing the laws. And that's what I fear the most with federal legalization. People who don't understand the plant making rules for the plant. If you truly care about the quality, the culture, and quite frankly, the craft of your cannabis, then the argument is not at a federal level. It's at a local one. Fight for your local rights. Be active in your community. Vote. Sign up for coalitions that will push the legalization in your state if it's not legal already. We do need smart federal reform on marijuana, on the hemp industry as a whole, on cannabis as a whole. We need to do it in a way that makes sense, is ethical, and looks out for the people that actually consumes these products. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. That really helps the channel grow. Until the next time, peace.